Welcome to Beyond the Jump Point. This is a recap on everything that's happened in the universe of Star Citizen this week. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So first up, there's a couple of really big things from the previous week that I actually wanted to touch on and highlight a little bit. So I think they're worth mentioning a second time. First announcement that came from last week is that CitizenCon's actually going to be digital this year. It'll be hosted on October 11th. It'll be streamed on both YouTube and Twitch. And honestly, this is very unfortunate as I was actually planning on attending in person this year. But it sounds like I'll be watching on YouTube with everyone else. I guess it'll save me a few $1,000s that I was planning on spending anyway that I can probably put towards more virtual ships. Last week, CIG also released their Test Universe Champions. This is a little bit that they put together where they grant out some free ships for some people who have gone into the PTU and kind of done some extraordinary things. Previously, people were rewarded for things like marking issues in the issue council as duplicate and really meaningless things, but it sounds like this year they were actually done for a lot more meaningful things like completing missions, etc., which is a really nice welcome change, I think. Now, late last week or early this week, the UK financials for CIG were also released. And at first glance, things really didn't look all that great. It looked like they lost about £8.5 million. But as you start to dive into those financials a little bit more, it does look like they were actually somewhat profitable when you're reading aside from the accounting magic that happened. For instance, they actually set aside £10 million for the liability on their new UK office. Now, that money is still there. It's just if they were to completely destroy the office, they'd be responsible for it. So the money is actually set aside. So it's really more about the investment long-term and not so much about the loss. Now, these financials, I believe, were actually for 2023 as well, which is important to note. So it isn't new. It's actually a couple of years old at this point. Now, it was actually a pretty quiet week in the Star Citizenverse. So that really brings us to Wednesday, the first time that anything actually happened outside of the game. On Wednesday, the Evocati release for 4.1.1 was released, and some people decided to go and scrape some of the data files to find out some of the things that were coming. So we do have some confirmations, and I won't dive too much into it. There's a little bit of spoiler alerts in here, but I won't actually expose any details. For instance, the dates were released for Fleet Week in May. Looks like it'll be the middle of the month as we expect. Some of the other things that were released were some upcoming information on missions that are going to be joining the verse very shortly here, as well as a whole bunch of new locations, as well as a bunch of new ships, a lot which we do expect to come in for Invictus this year. On Wednesday, PC Gamer also released what seems to be an annual article on Star Citizen, and they really criticized CIG for how they could have possibly lost as much money without actually releasing the game. Now, as you read through the article, it does seem a little bit biased, to be honest, because I would say that in some form the game is actually released. It's playable, you can grab your ship, you can go fly, you can do missions. It may not be the complete version 1 that everyone is expecting, but their article is very biased and makes you believe that they've made $800 million and got nothing to show for it, which I don't think is true or fair. Now, on Wednesday, CIG also released the roadmap update and the roadmap roundup. And in there was actually confirmation on some of the leaks that had happened earlier in that day about the 2 new mission types, one being for ambush and one being for security patrol. So the ambush mission looks like you'll be hiding in an asteroid field, I'm guessing, and you'll be looking to actually ambush a patrol that's flying by. And the security patrol really seems to be the exact opposite of that, where it's your job to go and check on varying different points within the universe, and hopefully you don't get ambushed. Outside of that, there was really no real notable things in the roadmap updates. Some things are marked as released, but I mean, everyone already knows that those are in the game. That brings us into Thursday. Not much really happened on Thursday, other than a few of the store items for gear for the Avis Talon armor lost their sale price, so they went back up to full price. Not a super big change, but a change nonetheless. As we move into Friday, not a lot of surprises actually came about, with the exception of the RSI weekly newsletter. So in their normal sneak peek image at the bottom, it displays these. Now, your guess is as good as mine as to what these actually are, but I believe that these are a new currency that's actually going to be given out for missions. There was some talk about some physicalized currency from a couple of different factions within the game. I think that's what we're actually seeing here. So if that is the case, what will happen is you'll accomplish your missions, and you'll be given this, which you need to transport back and keep and trade for goods at a later time. Or I could be completely wrong. Who knows? Now, this brings us to Saturday. And the only notable thing on Saturday is actually the third race of the System 7 Racing Series. The only thing happening on Saturday. Finally, under the category of random tidbits, there are a couple of sales on the Pledge Store for ships specifically, which are probably not going to last for long. For instance, there's the Pioneer, which is in limited stock, and I actually picked up one of these myself, as well as the Hull E is actually still available, again in limited stock. So if there's something you were debating on there, make sure that you grab it sooner rather than later, because I imagine those will be disappearing reasonably quickly. Now, the other noteworthy thing that you might want to consider picking up, especially if you don't own the game, is a Miner Starter Pack. It's currently on sale for $67 US. Regular price is $75 US. But this will be changing shortly. Probably remove the lifetime insurance and the 20,000 UEC. So if you're considering joining the game, make sure that you pick this up. And you're also welcome to use my referral code in the description, which will get you an additional 5,000 credits in-game. That's all I have to report for this week, as it was a pretty quiet week in the verse. With that said, I'll see you next week.